Prop Andrew DeCauley coming off. Kutztown takes the sloppy line out. Charges forward.
Good defense from Joe Kelly for Penn State to cause that turnover. Looks like an awkward tackle on, was that Klotz? Klotz could be injured at the base of that ruck. He got taken down at a very awkward angle.
Kutztown continue their aggression at the breakdown. They're going to keep doing it until they get called for it. And sooner or later, they're going to start creating some turnovers from it. See if Penn State can stay steady in this scrum. That one's straight out again.
That's got to be a penalty. Oh.
He's calling an early foot on the hooker, so it's going to be a free kick to KU.
Penn State got lucky that wasn't a penalty. Their flanker clearly tried to put that ball back in the scrum with his hand.
Good defense again from Greg Voigt. Hartman carries it forward. They go wide to Alex Donahoe.
It's held up by Metcalf.
Able to get the ball down. Oof. Good defense for Penn State here. They're not giving anything away.
They knocked it on in the tackle.
Prime scoring opportunity here for Kutztown.
I'd expect to see their number 8 take this week, and he does.
Hartman, good offload to Kruger.
Nifty step by Kruger there. Bought himself some time for his forwards to get there and support. I expect to see Kutztown take a couple of attempts with their forwards here.
Good maul. Penn State defense shot up well, but they didn't make much contact.
Lawrenson,
wow.
no way he was able to get up. He thinks he scored a try, but now the referee's saying he was held and tackled, didn't release. A little bit of the Michael Klotz disease from Katz, Michael Katz.
Is it Tim Katz?
Michael Katz.
Michael Katz.
Update on Katz. The injury that he suffered in that game was a pulled hamstring. Unlikely to be able to go for the Tim Katz, sorry. Unlikely to be able to go for the game, third place game tomorrow. But man, did he have a heck of a coming out party today. 4 tries for the big prop.
Just a sophomore.
Yep, only been playing rugby for a year and a half. So Penn State has an injured player coming off. Is that? It's like
He's not moving very well.
That was their
Gabe Tupper.
blindside flanker.
Joe Corrado comes on in his replacement. He's the guy we talked about earlier. He's a big, strong, physical guy.
Oh, we got another injury. Is this Lawrenson down again?
We got 2 bodies down this time.
Lawrenson's down again holding his head, and if this is another head injury, I think they got to get him off the field. I mean, I understand that he's their go-to guy, but if he's been dinged in the head twice, well, it looks like they're looking at his knee, so. And it looks like he's going to have to come off based on the way the coaching staff is talking about substitutions. And once again, Lawrenson's going to gut it out and stay on the field, although he's limping.
Tough character. (17-13) still. We've been out without a score for a while.
Kutztown's had probably the better of this half. Haven't seen a lot of attacking threat from Penn State, although big scrum there from the Nittany Lions.
Yep. Uncharacteristic based on what we've seen earlier.
Great quick hands from Lawrence.
Donahoe tries to offload inside, but he can't. Good defense there from Greg Voigt. They got numbers wide if they get there. They still got numbers wide. Penn State
Huge
needs
numbers.
to rush to get out there.
They need to move that ball quickly.
They do, but I think they've got some forwards.
Good blitz defense by Penn State, although I think he may have them offsides. So in an effort to close down the overlap, Penn State offsides penalty, and Kruger's probably going to turn this into 3 points for Kutztown. "87 minutes" showing on the game clock here. I'm thinking that's probably not the amount of time remaining. I believe it was at about 24 minutes when the clock went a little screwy.
Good thing the official has some time. Penalty's good from Kruger. It's going to be 20-13. They take a full 7-point advantage.
Joe Kelly's come off the field for Penn State.
On his place is Connor Mariani.
Kelly seemed to be one of the only guys capable of breaking through this Kutztown backline defense, so we'll see if Mariani can continue that.
Like I said earlier, I'd like to see them work the ball to Void a little bit more and let him crash in. And maybe put Malcolm out on the edge, or even Dan Metcalf out on the edge and try to get a mismatch against a smaller player.
Well, the one time they ran the ball through Voigt, it resulted in a try, so I think that's probably good strategy.
There's Klotz making a run. Taking a broken play and turning it into a gain. Good French defense from Kutztown.
Looked like they had something set up to get the ball into Voigt's hands there, and it just didn't work out.
Kutztown's coming up quick enough to where Penn State's not going to be able to do much fancy. It's going to have to be a little bit more direct. Voigt goes inside. DeFalco. If they can get the ball wide, they got Metcalf lined up across from Lawrence. They might be able to work that mismatch.
Metcalf looking like Mike McDonald out there on the wing. I think Kutztown
gets a turnover. It's a loss forward in the mall. So Kutztown's going to have a scrum here.
And no surprise, Mike Lawrenson was in the middle of that for Kutztown, causing the turnover. Yeah.
20's right. He's right. Yeah. Big run here.
Penn State, this is really the first attacking opportunity inside the 22 they've had this half.
That was Corrado, the sub who we talked about might be able to make an impact.
And there's your man Voigt.
Malcolm May.
Penn State
setup,
clearly looking to keep the ball tight. And that may come back to haunt them because right now if Kutztown can move the ball wide, they have a huge advantage out to the left.
Good pressure at the ruck to create that knock-on. So we're going to have a scrum here to Penn State. It's one of those opportunities that they need to capitalize on.
We saw Penn State's scrum looked good at the last pack down. And it's taken against the head.
Even though they gave up a little territory. Good hook. Just hands out, committing the defender and going. Kutztown's wing nearly made a fantastic play there.
Somehow Kutztown was able to retain possession.
There's Wes Hartman.
He's through. Oh, no, he went
knocked on at the try line.
He went to touch it down and knocked it on. Well, huge missed opportunity for Kutztown there.
Looks like Penn State's Sam Lapai is coming on. It's a thick wing. But he does have shiny, bright boots.
I believe he's a Gonzaga product. Gonzaga High School. Washington, D.C. send a lot of players to Penn State. In fact, one who we haven't seen today is Gabe Free. I don't know if he's injured or...
He's at number one.
Oh, he's propping? Okay. Haven't seen a lot out of him today then.
There's Gonzaga players crawling all over Furman today. There's some at JMU. Of course, I mean, when you got 90 players, 100 players in your program every year, you're going to send them places. Clemson, who we talked about.
I think we had, at the last ACRL Sevens Championship, we had 15 Gonzaga alums scattered throughout the 8 teams. Penn State gets a reprieve from a diving over penalty. Hopefully, that looks like they're going to have the big man Metcalf try to.
He's got a leg. He's going to be able to get us a territory here, as long as he can get the ball out of bounds. He does.
Very well.
About 35 meters. So another opportunity lost there from Kutztown. Should have been a try.
Looks like the referee's going to have not matching the line out.
Huh. Metcalf quick taps and gives it up.
Huge counter ruck from Kutztown.
Good pressure. Creates it. Creates the penalty. It might be a Kruger maybe going for posts here. Take a 2-point.
He is.
2 possession lead is what they're looking for. 20-13 right now.
17 minutes left in the game.
A 2 possession lead over Penn State, as I hate to say impotent, but as impotent as their attack has looked, it might prove to be enough.
Yeah, they really haven't shown much, shown to be much of a scoring threat here in the second half.
Joe Kelly, as you mentioned, came out. He was providing some pop.
Good strike. And it's
That's
over.
Good. Wow, just snuck over.
Looked like the wind took that back a little bit, and it was questionable if it was going to make it over the uprights,
Well,
and it
put
did.
enough air under it, that's for sure. I think it might have come down with some snow on it. So 23-13. Penn State trailing by 10 with about 15 minutes left to play.
Ooh, that's going to
Good
be a
kick and
penalty.
chase.
Taking the man
DeFalco
out in the air by DeFalco.
Didn't even make any attempt to wrap.
Looks like he injured himself. Adding
going to the
injury to
pocket.
penalty, and he's going to go to the bin. Wow.
That's a blow for Penn State. Not only are they down 10 points, they're now down a man. So they'll get them back with about 5 minutes left to play. If Kutztown can punch in one score while they got the power play, it's probably going to be enough.
Yeah, it was going to be hard enough for Penn State to come back at even strength. Now that they're down a man, the way they've played the second half, I'd say it's borderline impossible. Kutztown fans are starting to feel it. That throw's not even close to straight. Referee's got it.
Casper Huizenga, another junior All-American for Kutztown as the hooker, struggled a little bit in the lineouts today. We don't have their bench.
Big scrum from
Wow.
Kutztown. That's the second straight they've taken against the head, I think.
Lauren's going about 20 meters sideways.
Great offload from Lawrenson to Kruger. It was South African to South African to South African on that phase. Going to be a penalty to Kutztown. And if I'm Kutztown, I'm letting Kruger just keep the scoreboard ticking over. It's not an easy angle, but they're going to opt for the scrum. Well, the way their scrum just decimated Penn State the last 2 times, it's probably a decent decision.
The wind's it's not insane right now, but I have to think it factored a little bit in the decision to not take a shot at goal.
Also, they're going up against a Penn State back line that's a man down. So actually, that's a very, very good decision now that I think through it. And look at that.
Kutztown fullback, Trent Hensley.
So
they insert the fullback to get an extra man in the back line that was already up.
So really smart tactical decision making from Kutztown there, recognizing that they had an extra man in the back line already because of DeFalco being in the penalty box. Right off the set piece, fullback goes in untouched, and what was a difficult ask for Penn State before just got that much more difficult. 12 minutes left. This is going to be 30-13, and I'd be willing to say that this one's in the books.
Coming up next, we got Minnesota Duluth against Wisconsin Whitewater in the second Division II semifinal. They'll be playing for the right to face Salisbury in the championship tomorrow. The rain's held off today. The forecast earlier in the week said it was supposed to be showering on us. Thankfully, it hasn't.
Tomorrow could be a different story, though, as it's supposed to be not only colder but also rainier. Which I would have to think would favor the winner of the Duluth-Whitewater game. Both teams are focused more on power than speed, whereas Salisbury, as we saw earlier today, likes to play very wide and very fast. Looked like some miscommunication there at the back of the scrum from Penn State. Scrum half thought the 8 was going to pop it to him. 8 was just standing there waiting for scrum half to take the ball, and end result is ball's back in Kutztown's hands.
Dono overran that ball, but Kapaizenga's there. I got to think Penn State was there to take that ball, and they do rip it away. They're there in plenty of time.
Sloppy ball out of the ruck, though, and Kutztown's back in possession.
Interesting. Bruce Dolan went for the high cross kick for one of his teammates to run onto. Penn State fielded it, but got pushed into touch.
Well, he called Mark.
He called him. We managed to call Mark. Had he play?
Although the end result is a Kutztown line out at the 22-meter line. Under 10 to play. 30-13.
Here's the first time we've seen Malcolm May get the ball with any kind of space. Penn State needs to go quick right now.
Yeah, they're down 3 scores.
Boyd does. I got to think he's just garnered another not 10, and he gets it. Smart play. Looks like we got some pretty good jabbering between the two.
I think we may have had a punch thrown, too. The AR is going to come talk to Brian Kelly. Penn State players acting like a punch was thrown, and it was right in front of the AR if it did happen. So we'll see what the call here is.
Well, if it's a punch, you generally expect to see a card. So whatever it was, doesn't garner a card.
Metcalf.
Cross kick from Dan Metcalf. Knock on.
Interesting strategy there from Penn State.
At this point, I don't blame him. You haven't had much luck with your conventional attack. Take a chance. If you're able to catch that ball, you've got Kutztown reeling.
Well, I made the mistake last game of saying it was over when it clearly was not, but I think this one, with under 8 minutes remaining and a 17-point deficit and having had no looking to threaten the Kutztown try line, I would say Penn State's probably going to go home with the loss here.
They still got a couple of minutes to play before they get their 15th man back as well.
That's right. They have been playing a man down this whole time.
Look, a knock on from Kutztown, but it goes uncalled. Nice run.
Great offload. Good support running from Kutztown.
A la James Madison.
Yeah, that did look like a couple of James Madison runs in the first half of that Division II semifinal.
If you want to know the difference between these teams, James Madison and Kutztown, these levels of play rather, James Madison and Kutztown played earlier this fall, and it was about a 90-point difference in Kutztown's favor. Well, it looks like Brian Kelly has had enough of the chippiness between the two teams. Calling the captains in. Kutztown's probably going to take another 3 points here.
Yep, it is going to be Kruger going for 3. Keep the scoreboard ticking over.
It's going to be interesting to see what these teams do in the spring. Obviously, they played in the Rugby East, which is a Division 1A conference. And they played towards this American Collegiate Rugby Championship, but they both still have the option to play into the Division 1A playoffs in the spring. Both of these teams would likely make it. The playoff structure hasn't 100% been nailed down for D1A, but their conference seasons are done.
Yeah,
So-
they don't have any 15s, at least conference 15s games on the calendar for the spring. I know Kutztown plans to focus heavily on 7s. They're going to be in the CRC in Philadelphia in June. Penn State has not received an invite to the CRC as of yet anyway. They have been a 4-time participant. Wholesale substitutions by Penn State now.
I think if Kutztown did decide to play into the Division 1A playoffs, if they're playing at the form that they have been this whole fall, I think they could have a chance to have their best run yet. Obviously, Arkansas State is still there, still quite good. Life, St. Mary's on the West Coast.
The interesting thing with the D1A playoffs is we see Lawrence in here. Well, what an offload by Lawrence, but it's going to be just forward. The interesting thing with the D1A competition this year is that you have probably, arguably, 4 of probably the top 6 or 7 teams in the competition, all in the same conference, the Mid-South Conference, with Arkansas State, Life, Davenport, and now Lindenwood. So depending on how they work that playoff structure, you're going to have potentially 2 of the best teams left out of the mix.
That's true. Now, Davenport, for all intents and purposes, was part of the Rugby East this fall. Finished 3rd behind Penn State. Only got 1 win, beating Wheeling Jesuit. Really kind of struggled this fall. So you could argue that maybe we're overvaluing them, but I think you're right. Davenport's a pretty darn good program, and they're going to be better in the spring having played this fall and the schedule that they did play.
And you really don't know how seriously they took the fall in terms of, if they cared that much about advancing in this competition or if they were using it more as a developmental time for their program.
Spring is going to be, we're obviously in a very weird time when it comes to college rugby, or just American rugby in general, with the way that party lines and conference lines and competition lines are all shifting and changing constantly. But the spring is definitely going to be an interesting time to see who decides to go play where, what teams opt to play in the playoffs they're eligible for, which ones decide they want to play sevens.
We've seen about 6 straight penalties on Kutztown here in the waning moments of this game. And we'll make that 7 straight penalties. I think this game is in hand already for Kutztown, and they've lost a little bit of discipline, and some of the younger players for Penn State getting a chance to run on and are looking pretty good. And there's another man down for Kutztown.
How about a Dan Metcalf drop goal?
It's about the only thing we haven't seen from Metcalf today. And is that Lawrenson down again? It's not. I think it might be Bruce Dolan.
Yep, Bruce Dolan it was.
And he's up. Under 2 minutes here, 20-point lead for Kutztown. Insurmountable. So Penn State just playing for pride here.
These two teams not used to playing into December in the fall. Pat, from your perspective as a conference commissioner and an assistant coach at Wake Forest, how have the teams in your conference and in your area enjoyed, or have they enjoyed playing fall rugby?
I think for the most part, we really enjoyed it. Our teams liked the fact that they were able to play meaningful games in the fall. We were able to piggyback. It worked out nicely for us to be able to piggyback on some of the football weekends. Clemson and Wake Forest is a good example. Clemson was playing Wake Forest in football on a Saturday. Wake Forest went down and played Clemson on that Friday night in rugby, and it was served as a good precursor to the football game the next day. And I think we're looking next year to probably play more 15s and expand our fall 15 schedule, adding a few weekends of non-conference play as well as probably a championship weekend, if not semifinals and championship weekends to our slate. So, I think the interest from the teams was good, the response was good, and I expect that we'll see that going forward. I can't speak to how the other conferences. I mean, we were really the only conference that actually switched.
Right.
Like you said, these conferences have typically, these teams have typically played their 15s in the fall, at least to some extent. This is just the farthest into the fall that they've played.
Right, the Rugby East made a switch. They had typically played 15s in the fall, but not their full conference season. They played in the spring to kind of conform to the rest of D1A. So there has been a bit of a change, but
I think we're into injury time here, so all that awaits is the final whistle from Mr. Kelly, and Kutztown will be the inaugural American Collegiate Rugby Championship champions. But not before Penn State gives one last crack at it. And
DeFalco's knock on going to play advantage here.
some Kutztown players saying to kick the ball out while they have possession. Others saying, why not go for some more points? Big tackle from Voigt. And I think that might be it. No, the referee's going to let him play on.
Hey, DeFalco bouncing off a tackle.
Good run by DeFalco. Definitely the best thing we've seen him do all day. A very interesting choice by Petrie. And I think that was offsides on the chaser, too. Although Kelly's going to award a penalty try.
Why not?
I guess he's going to say that the
Metcalf conversion.
Is he going to say that the player, he's going to also award a card? And it must be that he's saying that the Kutztown defender interfered with the chasing player who was trying to chase down that, I guess, box kick from the Penn State scrum half. Oh, and an attempted conversion. And that's going to be it.
Kutztown, inaugural in 2013 American Collegiate Rugby Championship champions.
And we'll be back after a short break with the second Division II semifinal between University of Wisconsin Whitewater and University of Minnesota Duluth.